Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners and anybody fresh to the show. As people are aware now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on plan positives. And today we've got a very positive gentleman joining us, and his name is Lewis King, and he's director and owner of the Albion Aviation Group. So Lewis, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. And
thank you. Good morning.
Really appreciate it. Lewis, first thing, can we ask you please just give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you came to be where you are at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the industry for 10 years. I started out in 2010. Over that period of time, I worked for two of the best top brokers, aircraft charter brokers in the world, and spent time in the Middle East and Far East. Then last year, I took it upon myself to set up my own aircraft charter brokerage company, the Albion Aviation Group, with an angle on that to provide aircraft charter broker training. And this is where we are now. We've been going a year. So far, so good. And kind of really jumping on the opportunities in the marketplace right now.
Brilliant. So firstly, well done for setting up. Secondly, we wish you the best of success. And thirdly, I'm sure there's been some ups and downs and benefits of what we've all gone through. Just to let people know that we are going to focus on the training element. So you said two of the world's best charter brokers. So I think we should give them a little bit of a name as to who you consider the two best to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Full credit to them. Air Charter Service and Chapman Freeborn.
Okay, so
you are the market leaders. And
yeah, so you got Mr. Leach and Russi there.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
A couple of larger than life characters in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Market leaders in what they do, and definitely people to look up to.
Yeah, no, exactly. Fair play to them, and they've been around for a long time, and they've done some incredible things. So there's a little bit of a boost there for ACS and Chapman. Now, obviously, to make a decision to move, like most of our industry, it's because you get involved, you see what's going on, and then you think to yourself, I could do things either the same or similar or differently. And that's what motivates people to want to do it. However, very few people then actually take the step because of the risk, the cost, etc. So great respect for you for doing that. Now, I understand you've got representation in Dubai and the UK, correct?
Yeah, correct. So we have two people in Dubai, where I am at the moment, and then we have two charter brokers also in the UK as well. So we're quite a small, very kind of niche charter broker at this stage, but obviously with the vision to expand where we can. Okay,
good. But you have achieved, since you started, in excess of 45 full charters. So you're getting there.
Yeah, correct. No, we've done very, very well. It's been really positive to see the growth. Okay, that has been aided obviously by what's going on in the world right now. So we have to be aware of that and pay credit to that. But it hasn't been easy. It's been tough, but it's been better than expected.
Okay. Now with obviously the tsunami of this virus hitting everybody, that's obviously helped with the PPE and everything. But how have you seen the development of the charter market from when things first kicked off in China up until now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting cycle, and this actually comes part of the training that that we deliver. Essentially, there's usually a time frame associated with any kind of natural disaster or any global event that requires chartering. With COVID-19, with this pandemic, those time frames have been stretched. So the window of charter opportunity has been stretched to maybe what would usually be 7 days for a natural disaster, or 10 to something on the extent of 3 months. So we've definitely seen kind of a peak in charter prices, a peak in demand. That, I believe, leveled off probably around a month ago, and now the rates are starting to cool a bit. The demand is dropping a bit as other supply chains, other transport corridors kick in, sea freight, road freight, etc. So I think we kind of passed the peak, but I still believe that due to the extent of this pandemic and the fact that it's global and possibilities of second waves and maybe eventually a vaccine, the charter demand will always have a strong place, I believe, in combating and fighting this.
Oh no, surely, yeah. Now, whilst I said at the beginning, focusing on planned positives, I'm not trying to come across now as negative, but in my opinion, and I'm by no means an expert, there's most definitely going to be a second wave. And I think the issues which should be seen as positive is that everybody, governments, organisations, businesses, should have learned from what's happened in the first wave and all the surprises, because it's been a new type of virus. So everything that people thought would happen hasn't, and we've learned a lot of new things. Now, that awareness has to be delivered in a positive fashion for the second wave, but I'm damn sure there's going to be a second wave. How do you see the difference with the way charters will be demanded, especially Northern Hemisphere, if we do go into a second wave? Just Christmas.
Yeah, good question. I think the buying process is going to be a lot smarter, I believe, on behalf of governments and organisations. I think they kind of know what they're looking for, and maybe they can procure charters in advance or ensure they have the stockpiles. I mean, what I would like, in kind of looking at it from a high-level overview, is more collaboration within trading blocks, i.e. within Europe or North America, where governments get together, sit around the table and kind of consolidate their requirements and then look for a specific kind of charter program. What we saw is a lot of individual countries scrabbling around trying to find charters, which kind of created a bit of confusion in the market. I think they can buy a lot better, a lot smarter, but hopefully we will see that kind of going into later on this year, or if there is a second wave. But I think people are becoming more aware, from a charter perspective, how important it is, and how it can really facilitate their requirements in terms of delivering cargo quickly, accessibility, and all those kind of points.
Yeah, no, I agree there as well, Lewis. We had a guest on recently, Gwilym, who's the chief. He was the chief chief officer cargo with Qatar, and he mentioned the term which I really liked, which was, there comes a point where you look at the way demand is driving pricing, and then you have to have a review, a sort of like an ethical pricing, almost like a conscience kicking in. And I think that was a really, really valid point. What's your feeling on that?
Absolutely. I think that's pretty key. And I'd like to see that, if there is a second wave, there is kind of more conscious and ethical pricing coming from operators. I totally understand everyone needs to make money. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think that, this pandemic has driven rates far higher than what we've ever seen before. We've had West Coast port strike, we've had, global humanitarian disasters. And okay, there are peaks in charter prices, but we've not seen anything like what we saw recently. And the rates have come down quite a lot, almost, by 2/3 of what they were. So, I would like to see, for sure, more ethical pricing from operators. At the same time, I do, totally agree that, people should make money, but, in the right way, for the benefit of everyone.
And one of the things that I think everybody is realizing as well is this pre-COVID pricing was an issue, and also people's understanding and appreciation of what margins should look like has now become ever more important, because of the fact that they can only go for X amount of months with cash flow, and it needs to change for everybody. And like you said, a fair pricing model is what's necessary. Even I just noticed that some of the top chefs now are talking about restaurants, and now everybody is making bookings in so many restaurants and not turning up and making a decision on the evening, and that's a terrible thing. So, I think a fair booking system is also necessary in other businesses. Now, for those who are into quizzes, and there's been lots of quizzes lately, one of the questions that's out there is Albion. Why Albion? So we both know, and I'm pleased to suggest that I knew, that Albion is the historical name, the oldest historical name for the British Isles. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And also A being at the beginning, so chances are that you're going to get quite a lot of focus.
Yeah, at the top of the list. But nothing to do with football. A lot of people have asked me, Lewis, why did you name your company Albion Aviation Group? But it's not football related, because the people that know me know that I don't follow a team that has anything to do with Albion in it. So.
But you do follow a popular team.
London's finest.
And there's me thinking you knew something about. I take it you're talking about Brentford.
No, Chelsea.
Yeah, I know all my family are Chelsea supporters, but good old Frank Lampard, I think he's doing a good job. So he's under pressure as well. Yeah. Now that we know it's Albion, now that we know it's the letter A, why did you then decide to go away from something that you were very familiar with and start focusing on training people with regards to understanding what charters were about, why, and how to approach it? What made you take that step?
Yeah, good question, Chris. A couple of points here. I saw a gap in the market. I saw that no one was offering any kind of standardized training at the time, particularly from the cargo charter perspective. To add to that, having worked in the industry for 10 years, I felt I was well-grounded, and I wanted to give something back. I really wanted to give something back to our industry that was constructive, that was engaging, and to kind of put it in a better place. Unfortunately, aircraft chartering, as it stands at the moment, is not regulated. There are no barriers of entry. So the purpose of the training is to kind of really set a new standard, a new benchmark in aircraft charter broker training, bring a fresh angle in that kind of focuses on ethical and compliant business practices, and kind of really, where I can, raise the bar. And that's not really to do away with the broker in any sense, but it's more to create an awareness of the role of an aircraft charter broker and what value they can add in the industry done in the right way.
Okay, so for you to decide that it was an opportunity or a need, there must have been certain challenges or certain practices that you thought needed to be addressed. What would they have been?
Yeah, so having worked as a charter broker previously at two former organisations, we were often coming up against competition from very small, kind of what we call, dare I say, bedroom brokers. So brokers that don't have the training, don't have the qualifications, the expertise, the knowledge of aircraft, that would often put our clients in very difficult, sticky situations. There's many a times where a client I would go for a cheaper price with an unknown broker and be stung in many different ways. So, I really wanted to then make sure there is a level of education that people can, refer to, make sure there is a professional entity that could administer this training essentially. So, working in the best interest of the client, but also as well in the best interest of the operator. So really promoting those operators that kind of look after their safety, compliance, maintenance, kind of really push them to make sure that we only work with those kind of operators. And okay, this touches on a bit of private jet charter, but really emphasizing, to avoid illegal and grey charters as best we can. So only working with, let's say, Part 135 operators. That's kind of really where it was born out, and seeing the frustrations in the charter market through the lack of education, awareness, and expertise.
Yeah, I'm saying it's what you just mentioned there with private aviation. I think one of the discussion points from people who are very well accredited and very well focused on safety and all elements was the poor guy who signs for Cardiff. And do you know what I'm saying? Whoever selected that particular piece of equipment and that organisation, they're well, I'm sure they have lots of nightmares and sleepless nights because that was avoidable. Now,
just to touch upon that, that is actually a case study in our training on the private jet side. How not to work with Part 91 operators. So yeah, we do actually kind of reinforce that, and lessons to be learned from that for sure.
Yeah, awful thing. God bless him. Now, looking at this type of setting a standard or a charter or a commitment, so what you'd actually be saying is that anybody who's looking at getting involved in charters should make sure that the operators that they get in touch with and compare meet certain criteria and are either a recognised from either some form of charter or standard or certificate. That's what your ultimate aim is it?
Absolutely, yeah. To work with operators that have the correct documentation. I mean, without going into too much details, we would look at AOC, airworthiness certificate. Do they have the correct third-party liability insurance? All those kind of elements. So we're really trying to push compliance you know, and to ensure that brokers know who to look for in terms of the right operators.
Yeah.
So.
And with reference to the term, which I like, a bedroom broker, are you getting support from some of the big guys?
Not yet. I mean, it's something that we really want to push in terms of professional dialogue. You know, my dream, and it's never been achieved before, or my aim is to really kind of pioneer legislation and licensing in aircraft charter brokering. Now, I would encourage, you know, anyone listening to this, particularly the big boys when it comes to chartering, is to have that, you know, collective discussion to see how we can implement regulation with the support of a body such as the Air Charter Association, or maybe even IATA, to really kind of get some heads around the table and see how we can do this. If you look at other industries, Chris, they've done it quite well. You know, let's look at, you know, ship brokering. There is licensing, there is regulation, and that avoids, you know, clients being exposed to brokers that don't work in their best interest. So it would require, in something that I'm more than happy to spearhead, but would require, you know, collaboration from the top brokers and maybe some international kind of bodies to really get it in place and get it moving.
Yeah, no, I think it's got a lot of mileage, Lewis. I think it's the right thing to do, and fair play to you. And especially with what people have learnt now over the last 3 to 4 months, because everybody, even from you know, health organisations who are looking to get their own PPE because they couldn't acquire it through the normal channels, they were going out looking for part charters. They were looking out for people who could support them, and lots of private individuals thinking that, you know, I can do this now, I can make a few bob. So there was a lot of new people getting involved, and if there's going to be another one, a second wave, and people are going to start doing it in a certain fashion, there's going to be another influx of those. So did you also see a huge amount of you know, different elements looking to get involved in charters?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we were getting requests from people, organisations that we would never expect to receive requests from, kind of end users. I mean, the majority of our business typically, and I probably speak for most cargo charter brokers, would come from logistics companies, freight forwarders or 3PLs. But in the urgency behind the crisis and the requirement for organisations to find abilities to move their cargo, we were getting requests from governments, embassies, organisations like that don't have the full picture of chartering, are not well educated. So it's a very much kind of taking their hand through the process, which you can only really do if you have the experience and you're an established broker. So yeah, we were getting requests from all different people, organisations.
Okay, so who makes up, or who's made up the courses that you've done? So you know, you've done well over 30 odd courses now. Who are the participants? Who are the people that you have?
Yeah, so it's quite varied. I mean, just to add to that, I mean, the geographical footprint in terms of the participants is global. So we've had people, organisations from New Zealand coming across to China. One of our first courses actually was for a large e-commerce company in China. And then we've done, of course, Middle East, Europe, and more recently the US. So there's definitely a global footprint behind it. And that's kind of been really leveraged by, you know, platforms like Zoom, social media, essentially. But in terms of the actual clientele, it does vary, and that's quite positive for B2C. So we've seen private individuals take the course, individuals that are looking to really potentially embark on a career as an aircraft charter broker. We've done a lot of pilots, actually. So pilots that have lost their job have reached out to us, and we've completed a few courses to them and offered them various different discounts because of the situation. Other private individuals would be kind of maybe people looking to expand on the knowledge they already have. We've actually been very fortunate enough. We did a course a couple of months back with a lady in the UK who we've now enrolled into our organisation on the back of the private jet charter course. And then looking at organisations as well. So freight forwarders, we've done some airlines as well. That really want to add depth into their organisation and an understanding. So as I said, it's not to go and necessarily set up an in-house broker desk, but more to understand, okay, so how can we use a broker to get the best out of the situation of aircraft chartering? You know, how can they add value to us? And that's what we're really trying to promote is, you know, go to a broker, they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they can really kind of do the filtering for you to provide you the best solution. which is safe and right for you.
Yeah, no, that's you mentioned there about the freight forwarders and obviously 3PLs. Also, the e-commerce business model when it comes to carriers and GHAs, it's very mixed. People know it's there, they don't know what to do with it, they don't know whether they should be part of a fuller chain, you know, first mile, last mile, everything. So people are now starting to look, how could they do it better than what's being offered, and especially when the pricing was going through the roof. So there's going to be so many people now thinking that they can do it better. So are you also looking at how to offer certain services to people who've had the training so that they you know, almost like a broker control center? So if they're doing things and they're not quite sure, because the fact that they've just done a course doesn't automatically give them the experience and the understanding, are you looking to supply some sort of after course support as well?
Yeah, 100%, because I'm very much aware that, you know, we can't just give someone a 60-page module handbook and maybe a 4-day training course and expect them to go off and book charters and not face any issues. So as part of the package, you know, they join what we call the Albion Alumni. So they will become members of that, where they have access to Albion and primarily myself for any questions or concerns they have after the training. So they can call me up, they can email me, and it's something that we really encourage, that professional dialogue to make sure that they're doing the right thing and to really assist them on the journey. It's very much a journey, the way we see it. So we're actually trying to build a community in that sense. And then, yes, we also offer recurrent training. So what we encourage is, you know, 6 to 12 months down the line, have a recurrent training, a refresher for a period of time that we can go over the core brokering principles that we covered, any issues that they faced that we can then build on. So it's very much a continuous process, a continuous learning process where we constantly update them, help them, assist them. And by no means do we kind of leave them alone. That would defeat the object of what we're trying to achieve, I feel.
Yeah, or add to the problem even.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, good. So the vision, you know, to pioneer regulation, that's something that you're definitely going to keep campaigning for and keep pushing.
Absolutely, and it's a long road for sure. I mean, it's never really been done, but you know, I have a few years in front of me, I feel. So you know, I can definitely kind of really drive this forward on the back of, you know, we now have this training organization. So yeah, as I said, if there's anyone out there listening that really wants to collaborate, then please, I'm all ears. You know, for the benefit of the industry, I think it's something that we need to do.
No, I think it's great what you're doing. What you mentioned there about having years ahead of you, you remind me of, like, there's a colleague and a very good friend, and I do a weekly podcast with him, and I'm always taking a mick out of him because he looks so young. Steve Dixon. I'm calling him Peter Pan, and you know, he's like Dorian Gray, and he's hidden a portrait in someone's attic. But I've got to say, whatever moisturising cream you're using, you need to let us know.
Thank you.
It's certainly working. Now, as far as the people that have been on the training courses now, what do you think are the biggest challenges for them that they're going to face if they genuinely want to get into the charter as an individual, and then those who want to do it representing their own business?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of information that we give them. And if I was to look at one specific point, it would be understanding the different aircraft types that are available to you as an aircraft charter broker, understanding who are the better operators to work with, as in the compliant operators. I mean, we do assist them insofar as people that take our cargo charter course will have access to our database of operators. So we actually give them a database to work with operators that are compliant. But I think it's more learning the kind of different aircraft types, and okay, so what aircraft should I use for this particular request? And what we actually encourage is we actually encourage them to maybe go out and seek employment in charter broker companies anyway. So we don't really, depending on who they are and maybe the company, we don't actually encourage, say, go up and start your own course. It's more kind of, okay, so how can you add to what you already know and maybe practice that in a larger charter broker company? So kind of giving them a foot in the door, so to speak. So there are definitely challenges, I feel, that, you know, having taken the course and obstacles they would face, but I feel primarily it would be learning, understanding their market in terms of the operators would be the kind of main one, and the most questions that we get asked post-course.
Okay, and do you see an opportunity whereby the larger brokers would allow people to, you know, come on board as a learning exercise or a mentoring or a coaching exercise? Or do you think that, you know, that competition area would prevent people from, like, letting people see what the inner sanctum looks like in the larger brokers?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, if I'm honest. I don't know how that would look, really, because obviously it's also a business as well. So I completely get that and respect that. And it's almost like a fine line that Albion is probably kind of treading. But as I said, you know, I'm very conscious that I'm doing this for the benefit of the industry and to really enforce the role of the broker. In terms of kind of bringing people to gain experience, then, you know, we kind of practice what we preach. We've recently taken on a graduate from Emirates Aviation University who's actually enrolled on this course, and she's working with us for 2 months to really kind of get exposure to it within the safe, you know, environment of our company. Whether other brokers choose to do that, then I'm not entirely sure. But if I can equip individuals to then, you know, take this course and then take it into some of the larger brokerage companies, then I'll be more than happy to do that. That's fine.
Okay, very good, very good. And as far as you know, let's say, you know, you're trying to reform the charter market and pioneer this regulation and licensing. Have you been in touch with IATA or any other regulatory body?
Not yet, no. We've had kind of off the table discussions with one particular association. But I think, you know, with the volume we're seeing that's going through the training organisation at the moment, I think we're in a very good place to then have these discussions now. You know, we have people passing through. We have an alumni that we're creating, so there's definitely a demand in the market. You know, to add to that, you know, we're speaking to a lot of operators at the moment to endorse our training as well. So we share our training with operators to kind of show them what we're trying to achieve and why it's working, you know, in their best interest as well. So we are looking for those endorsements from airlines too.
Okay, very good. And which market now, as far as you're concerned, you see as the areas that there's going to be an awful lot of demand and focus for, especially as we said, you know, coming up for a second wave and taking us into April of next year?
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, obviously, PPE in terms of the cargo charter market for sure.
And there's a lot of stockpiling going on at the moment. There's a lot of empty warehousing, you know, making decent money now out of just storing pallets.
Correct. But I do feel that the demand will ramp up. Now, just to add to this, I feel the private jet side is also going to see a spike or a boom. People are becoming more conscious about traveling maybe on commercial airlines. Those people that maybe used to travel first class may be in a position now to switch over to ad hoc chartering on private jets. So I definitely see a transition there for sure. And, you know, people want to travel. You know, we have many discussions with our private jet charter clients that, you know, we're very eager to get out, and they're already sending us, you know, requests, and we get quite a lot of those. And then new people coming in, new clients, high net worth individuals, other organizations really exploring the possibility to arrange private jet charters. So I think that will see a spike as well. And there will be a transition of certain people, organizations to the private jet charter market too.
Yeah, no, and I think as high wealth individuals, and now very high wealth individuals and businesses, they can really make so much of a difference. And it's something that people don't appreciate, because, you know, if you've got your own aircraft or access to an aircraft, I mean, you can save a top executive anything from 35 to 50 days a year. Now, that impact and that value of those days from what that individual can either do as far as generating more business or saving or influencing the business in certain ways, it is incredible. But all people see is, you know, somebody earning lots of money now going on a private jet and creating more problems for the environment. But that's also not necessarily true, because the percentage of impact is very, very low, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, time is money. And, you know, if we can give the CEOs and the chairmen the time, you know, maybe they can expand their business, create more jobs and feed back into the economy. So there are, you know, it's a double-edged sword really, but I can definitely see the benefits and the arguments, you know, for business aviation there for sure.
Yeah, and it's a shame that media take such a negative approach to it. It's always, you know, everybody I don't know what it is, why people or why the media keeps feeding people bad news to make them feel worse, to want to know more bad news. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, people love bad news, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah, but it's such a shame, you know, because if somebody makes you smile, it makes you then smile, and someone else then smiles at you smiling, or else in this day and age, I think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Totally agree with you there, Chris.
Now, as far as 2020 is concerned, brilliant year, and it's amazing that with such a global impact, the old term hindsight 2020 seems to come up often enough. What do you see as 2021 for you and for the the approach, especially to the training side?
Sure, I definitely see it growing. Absolutely, I see us being kind of more global in terms of the training that we offer. I think we're going to be working a lot more, probably more with organisations, maybe multinational corporations. Definitely e-commerce for sure. We've seen, since that course we did in China, which was actually one of my first courses, quite nerve-wracking. It went very, very well, and we've seen a kind of a lot of referrals from that as e-commerce companies look to really take control of their supply chain. So I feel that we can definitely add value there. In terms of the chartering, it's a tough game for sure. It's extremely competitive. What I would like to see is Albion is to kind of really go on to eventually control our own assets where we can, i.e. aircraft. So kind of really embody that group vision that we're trying to create. So yeah, there's kind of a few things that we're pursuing, but on the training side particularly, obviously because it's the focus of what we're discussing about, I think it will continue to grow for sure. And as long as we can add value and try and maybe one day, bring about some kind of regulation, recognized regulation, then I think we're going in the right direction.
Oh, no, I fully agree with you. And you also did something with the US military.
Yes, exactly. So we were very fortunate enough, pretty much soon after I incepted the company, we were invited out to speak at the NDTA conference, autumn fall in St. Louis. And I actually did that on the back of the China course. So slightly off topic here, I flew from China to Dubai to Europe, Europe to US, and other connecting flights. It was about a 40-hour transit time plus that I had. No layover. It was exhausting, and immediately to go speak to the US military about the role of aircraft chartering in kind of supporting US national defense with an emphasis on what we offer in terms of the training. So a really kind of great experience, great audience, top audience, in fact. We actually secured some courses out of that too, which has been great. So,
what now? Do you know what I'm saying? So you're sitting here and you're thinking, right now, the US military, with everything that they've got, Trump's finest, and now why would they need training in chartering?
Yeah.
Where were the areas that they weren't as familiar or as professional as they should have been, and what was the most interesting area that they picked up on?
Yeah, it was more to do with adding depth to what they already know. So buying a lot smarter. So how to use commercial airlift in a better way. I mean, the US military is global. They have vested interest in Asia, Middle East, Europe, etc. So how kind of really leverage civil aircraft in terms of chartering to add value, add lift to what they already do in terms of grey tail capacity. You'll be surprised. There are programs out there, craft program, for example, that gives, massive volumes to commercial carriers, such as Atlas, such as National Air Cargo, top operators. So really it was kind of, so how can I procure better? And, what are the different aircraft available to me in different regions, for example? So, we got some really, really good feedback from that. And as I said, we're the first people that are offering globally training in cargo aircraft chartering. So for them, it was fantastic. Someone from, the civil side is going to, add depth to our organisation. There's no one else that's really doing that at the moment. So.
Yeah, and I suppose everybody now, where it comes to cash flow and expenditure, too many organisations have outsourced too much, and then they become complacent with the understanding of the pricing, and they don't actually review it and see whether or not they could economize a little bit. So I'm assuming it's no different from them as well. And people probably think it's an easy win with the military. If they're desperately needing something, then boom, you give a price and they're going to take it.
Yeah, it can be, but it's always about offering the right solution. I.e., can that cargo fit into that aircraft? Can that operator get that landing permit at that particular airport, i.e., country? So yeah, there's a lot to it, and we need to educate people on this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, on a personal level, what do you think are going to be the biggest challenges for you for the coming year?
Yeah, good question. I think any new organisation, new companies, there's always challenges. For us, it's we've seen massive revenue already, and it's kind of how we grow strategically. How we can grow our organisation in the right way. We're still riding this, let's say, pandemic wave, but that's not going to be there, forever. So it's how do we kind of grow our products, whatever that may be, the training or the chartering, private jet or cargo charter in the right way, and then increasing our global coverage as best we can, because it is a very competitive market, this chartering.
Yeah. And the likes of all of the, shall we say, the big boys with regards to e-commerce and the fact that they're acquiring their own assets and they're looking at managing their own businesses differently from ground handling and also to in the air. How do you see that developing?
Going back to my former company, I applaud them particularly in terms of managing assets. I think that's probably one of the ways forward for aircraft charter broker companies that are willing to take the risk. If they can have some kind of controlling capacity, okay, that does create conflicts of interest potentially with other operators, because you're not neutral anymore. So there are challenges there. But I think if you can build that, and not to give away too many secrets for Albion, if you can build that on a core product, i.e. e-commerce, and have a controlling asset, then I think that's probably the way to go, or an alternative niche product for sure. But I think having an asset is definitely where we're trying to go eventually.
Okay. And as far as these initiatives now with young trainers and trying to keep people in jobs, because of the fact that you're doing a training program, have you thought of doing something whereby if people have got the time, which a lot of them will do, and even if they're on some sort of government support scheme, of actually building up junior professionals as part of your growth program and as part of your initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very, very fortunate to give them the chance when I was young as a graduate to join ACS at the time. Extremely lucky there. So absolutely, if I can bring the younger generation into the world of aircraft chartering in the right way and educate them in the right way, then I think that's definitely the way forward. Opposite me right now, I have an Emirates Aviation University graduate that we've just taken on an internship, purely from an experience point of view, to kind of really get them understanding as to what aircraft chartering is. I had a seminar a couple of months back in the Emirates Aviation University, just simply to talk about aircraft chartering. So absolutely, we're really, I'm very much behind that, giving the younger generation, where we can, the opportunity to learn and learn in the right way. To add to that, as I mentioned earlier, we delivered a course to an individual recently who's actually joined us into our organisation. So definitely, we'll target anyone that wants to learn and wants to kind of learn in the right way, for sure.
Okay, so like coming towards the end of the podcast, but you've clearly got an appetite, an engagement, a drive of what you want to do and why you want to do it, which is fantastic. Who would you say have been the biggest motivators or coaches or mentors that gave you that excitement or that enthusiasm to want to do something like you've done? Because so many people join companies, it's only very few who then create their own companies. So who was it? Who would you like to say have been the people that have motivated and inspired you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's quite a few. It goes without saying, the way ACS has grown its business and how professional they are, and what they do, for sure. As an organisation, yes, definitely. If you want to narrow down into individuals, then Brissy and Shahay Azunian from Chapman Freeborn, and also Magma Aviation as well. I don't know if you've ever kind of explored them. You know, they are a fantastic organisation. Tom Wrigley and Ross Wilson. I actually spent some time with them before starting Albion, and you know, they really, you know, infuse me the way they do their business and kind of how they approach the industry and what they've achieved. So there's quite a few figureheads, I would say, and sorry if I missed anyone out in particular, that have, you know, really encouraged me to go on this journey for sure.
No, brilliant. And what would you say as a result of what you've seen, what you've learned, and what you want to deliver in the future? What would be your, you know, your 3 golden rules or your magic 7 principles that you don't ever want to compromise?
Passion. You know, if you have a passion for something, obviously my passion in aviation, then you can't really go wrong. You've got to be hungry, Chris, as well. You know, I always say that no one can work harder than me, and people that know me know my work ethic, and I would love to meet someone that can outwork me. So definitely kind of having that hunger for sure, and you know, doing it the right way. You know, being compliant and doing what's best for the industry as a whole. And that's where we hope the training is going. Yeah,
no, good. And it's a little bit like being a boxer or a fighter. You know, you've got to be hungry, but also humble as well at the same time.
Yeah.
And then people gravitate towards what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for coming on board. Firstly, great respect for what you've done, because not enough people take that chance or that risk. And whatever happens moving forward, you'll have no regrets, because it's an experience and one that is incredible. I wish you great success. I hope IATA or somebody listens to you, because I think history proves that when things are not as regulated as they could be, without being over-regulated, because that's also an illness that our industry seems to be doing as well. But if they don't have that, it's very dangerous, as we've discussed with the Cardiff City issue. So I wish you well. I might even try and come on a course one day, because it's something that's always interested me, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again. So really, thank you very much for coming on.
Please, thank you. Thanks for your time. Stay safe.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.